1. Rainbow Valley. There is an accidental graveyard called the Rainbow Valley on Mt. Everest. It got its name from the multicolored jackets and climbing gear attached to the numerous corpses littered along the hillside. People seeking to climb Mt. Everest have to pass these colorful corpses on the way to the top. Over time, the mummified bodies have become goal posts for would-be climbers. 2. Guillotined. During all the beheading and overthrowing, a scientist by the name of Dr. Boyers was studying death. He asked a condemned prisoner Henri Langeville, who was about to be executed via guillotine, to blink as long as he could after his head was chopped off. He ended up blinking for 30 seconds. 3. Green Man. Raymond Robinson, aka Green Man, lost his face as a young boy due to an electrical accident. He managed to live to the age of 74 having no eyes, mouth, nose, and only one ear. His severe disfigurement meant he stayed inside during the day, but his habit of going for long nighttime walks made him into an urban legend. 4. Hinterkaifeck murders. All 6 inhabitants of a farm were killed with a mattock in 1922. A few days prior to the attack, one of the victims had seen footprints in the snow leading from the edge of the forest to the farm, but none leading back. A newspaper appeared that no one had purchased. 6 months earlier, the maid had left, claiming the house to be haunted. The murders remain unsolved to this day. 5. Stanford Prison Experiment. The Stanford Prison Experiment was an attempt to investigate the psychological effects of perceived power. Guards and prisoners were chosen randomly from the volunteering college students, but the experiment quickly took a dark turn as those in power doled out psychological torture. The prisoners accepted it, and some started to go crazy. The whole exercise was abandoned after only 6 days due to questions of its morality, but continues to show how quickly normal people can turn cruel when given authority. 6. Whiskey business. While on an expedition into Africa during the late 19th century, James Jameson, heir to the Jameson Irish whiskey empire, reportedly asked to witness cannibalism in action. In order to make his horrifying desire a reality, he purchased a slave girl and handed her over to men who murdered her and feasted on her flesh. Jameson is said to have sketched out the gruesome scene, later turning his rough illustrations into a series of watercolors. 7. Live forever. Shi Huangdi was the founder of the Ying dynasty and the first emperor of China. Like many powerful men, he decided he wanted to live forever and so commanded his doctors to find the elixir of immortality, or they would be killed. His doctors shortly discovered the magic potion and he set about drinking it daily. Unfortunately, he was actually drinking mercury and eventually died from mercury poisoning. 8. Jaw dropper. When French revolutionary Maximilien Robespierre realized he was to be executed, he attempted suicide by shooting himself in the mouth. He was unsuccessful, and when they took him to the guillotine, the executioner ripped off the bandage holding his wounded jaw together, causing him to scream in agony before the crowd until he was silenced by the blade of the guillotine. Jaw-dropping stuff. 9. Baby farmer. Minnie Dean, aka the baby farmer, is the only woman to receive the death penalty in New Zealand. To make ends meet, she used to take in unwanted babies, many of whom either got mysteriously sick and died, or went missing. Eventually, after a police investigation, it was discovered she had killed them and put their remains in hat boxes. She was found guilty of infanticide and hanged. 10. Jonestown Massacre. Probably the most well-known of these creepy historical facts, at least in pop culture. The People's Temple Agricultural Project, aka Jonestown, came to an end after the cult's leader Reverend Jim Jones forced 918 people in the town to drink Kool-Aid mixed with cyanide, chloral hydrate, Valium and Phenergan. The events have often been referred to as mass suicide, but were really closer to a mass murder as all who drank the poison did so under duress, and a third of the victims were minors. It was the largest single loss of American civilian life in a deliberate act until 9/11. 11. Little Albert. Carried out by John Watson, the Little Albert experiment aimed to find out if fear was inherently ingrained or culturally taught. To find out, He essentially repeatedly traumatized a sick baby that he kidnapped every day from the on-campus daycare facility without its mother's knowledge by presenting it with soft, fluffy things while slamming a gong with a hammer from behind a curtain to scare the child. The baby developed a phobia of white, fluffy things, and the experiment ended because Albert's mother found out and moved them away. According to relatives, little Albert never learned to walk or talk, and eventually died at the age of 6.